That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Comic Reviews. Got a little bit of a preamble before I get into this week's books, but got a fairly good amount, so this will probably be a longer episode. I just want to say, ChannelBadGuy, who's a YouTube channel that was a really neat thing, would explain different kinds of comics and characters and stuff. Unfortunately, he is ending his channel, and he's someone that I got to talk to a little bit over Skype a couple times. And he wanted to come on the show, and we just couldn't work out a time to have him come on Geeky Gentleman, but he is ending his channel. And part of just his, goodbye video, he very, very graciously, and I'm very, very just in awe that someone would take the time to do it, sent a lot of people my way, so just got a couple subscribers over today. And so anyone watching this, since this might be the first video of mine you're watching, hi, welcome to the channel. I don't even kind of do the same kind of thing he did, but I hope I entertain you, and I hope you do not regret the decision. So welcome, and I'll say, since I have two other announcements, since we have new subscribers coming on. I'm really close to 800 subscribers at this point, so I'll probably do a Q&A video once I hit that number. Might be live, we'll see what happens with that. So look forward to that. Don't leave questions on this one, I'll post an announcement video or something. New subscribers watching comic reviews. I take suggestions for books. If you have single issues coming out that, monthly series that you'd like to hear me talk about, leave a comment below. I promise to do my absolute best to get a hold of at least one issue. And if I like it enough, I'll add it to my pull list. I also talk about trades and graphic novels on this show mostly every week. There's some times where I don't. So if you have suggestions for trades or graphic novels you'd like me to review as well, please leave those in the comments below. Those are, of course, harder to get a hold of, though. They're not as in print all the time, yada yada. So I'll do my best to find it. If I see it somewhere, I will get it. I write them all down. Other announcements. I did a solo video that I actually put editing into. It's just not something I ever do. That's available to watch. You can click here to go see it. It's about the difference in moral philosophy between Green Lantern and Star Trek, and the way in which they approach and justify the philosophy of their morality and the reason that they do what they do, and why I prefer Green Lanterns. Even though I certainly like Star Trek, don't get me wrong there. So you can go check that out. I hope you enjoy that. Yeah. As well as the video that inspired it, just all kinds of stuff preloaded in this video. The video that inspired it was a Geeky Gentleman we did on the comic series The Omega Men by Tom King, which is a Kyle Rayner story, for those that didn't know that. So you can go check that out here. And just because, once again, new subscribers, Rasco Jackson, Rasco's Modern Life is his YouTube channel if you want to go check him out. He and I do fan film reviews on Geeky Gentleman every week. We just did Mortal Kombat Rebirth and Legacy Season 1. So you can go check that out right here. Hopefully, I'm not overloading people with links who just are here because they want to hear me talk about some comics. So all that being said, please go check all that stuff out if you have even the slightest interest in it. I hope you'll enjoy. Let's go ahead and talk about the books that came out this week, though. Again, just real quick, though. ChannelBadGuy, thanks a lot, man. Really do appreciate it. Nicest guy on YouTube. Let's talk about the last thing I read this week, which is Trinity, issue number 1 by Manapul. Francis Manapul, if I remember the name correctly. So Trinity is a concept that is it just should work, right? It just makes perfect sense that Trinity should be a thing, and we should all be able to enjoy the crap out of it. Yeah, Francis Maniples, doing the art and the writing. We should all just be able to enjoy Trinity. It's the three biggest characters in DC in a book together. That just goes together. It makes more sense, maybe even more sense than Justice League. No one's ever done it well. There was like a whole series of Trinity, and it was just boring. And so, seeing someone do a Trinity series in Rebirth, maybe it'll work. Who knows? It's certainly worth a shot to look at. So what can we say about Trinity? Well, first issue's nice and cool. I love the art. The art is absolutely gorgeous. Every character gets a nice, cool 2-page spread where their logo, their symbol, takes over the paneling, and there's, going outside the paneling, which is just neat. You don't see people be creative enough with their panel work, which is always unfortunate. So I'm glad to see some of that used here, and it looks really cool. The art is absolutely fantastic. But how's the story? I'm not like a huge fan of Rebirth Superman so far. I don't think there's anything wrong with him. I'm just like, oh, so it's 90s Superman, but not. So I'm like a little on the fence about him, and this story entirely revolves around him. But I think in an interesting way, because we still essentially have New 52 Batman and New 52 Wonder Woman in some ways dealing with 90s Superman. So they don't know how to approach him, they don't know how to feel about him, and like they know that he is Superman, but they don't really have an understanding with him on a personal level that they did with New 52 Superman from their perspective. One more thing about the art. This is a really cool page. The shading, really, really neat there. Rainbow Batman, and they do the since it's supposed to be like old school comics, they do the dot shading. That was really neat. Also, Batman in a plaid shirt. It's almost worth it for that alone. You can get a nighty Harley. It's kind of neat. That's your get on your Harley and ride. Harley Quinn right there. There you go. I swear I'm not a pervert. Anyway. So yeah, the art in here is definitely the best thing about this book, but that's not to say anything bad about the story. The story is certainly intriguing, and I'm left really wanting to pick up the next issue and see where it's going to go. But I think the thing about this that works best from a tonal point of view is that it's such a human thing. It's gonna get into something big, crazy, epic, sci-fi weirdness, certainly. But it's starting out as just like a very realistic, let's go meet the new neighbors kind of situation put into this. And there's all this history of the DC universe working its way in there too, and that's really fascinating. So I'm very curious to see how this goes. It should be interesting. I'm definitely going to pick up at least the next issue of this. It's just a really fascinating take. It's a really odd kind of world we're seeing right now. And we're seeing the characters just trying to get used to each other. And so that's nice. It's nice to actually address how that's kind of weird as shit. I'm interested to see how this continues on. It should be a fun ride, if nothing else. But it has... Well, I'm talking about an Amazon and a goddamn Kryptonian, so humanity might not be the right word. But it definitely has an emotional core to it that's incredibly relatable on a really emotionally resonant level. And so I'm curious to see how it goes. It didn't wow me, it didn't blow me away, but it definitely grabbed my interest, and so that's where I'm at with this. So hopefully they are able to continue doing that. hopefully we have a Trinity book that's, good. Wouldn't that be incredible? New people, I do that so I can sync the audio, if you were wondering. I've been getting new subscribers for like months now, and I've never felt the need to explain half of this shit, but 5-6 people in one day is big deal to me, so here I am. This came out last week, but my comic shop messed up and didn't give it to me, so here we go with Wonder Woman number 6. This continues the Year 1 story arc with her, and it is interesting to see how Wonder Woman. It's always fun to see Wonder Woman first time in Man's World stuff. It's always really confusing, and just interesting. And there are a lot of little neat things to kind of show how weird and how far advanced and just strange to the modern world the Amazons are. And some neat stuff with Etta Candy introduced as well. And then Cheetah. We're getting like a proper origin for Cheetah as filling the role of, I hesitate to say the word friend because they're certainly, they have this much interaction in the story, but someone who's going to be certainly an ally to some extent or another with Wonder Woman, to becoming a villain, to going back and forth. It'll be kind of not quite a Professor X and Magneto in this world we're getting, but something similar to friends, yet sometimes they're enemies. So I'm curious to see how that goes on too. Again, some really sweet moments with Steve and the wife of his friend that died. That'll be interesting. Steve and Nick's wife. Some neat stuff with that really did make you feel. Okay, so we get this panel, or full page spread rather, of Wonder Woman seeing animals. Okay, Hera's the peacock, Athena's the owl, that much is easy. She explains that Hephaestus is the mouse and Hermes is the turtle. Wonder who the deer would be. Artemis. Hawk. Does she say who's who? She was given gifts by the gods is the whole point of this. She of the grain Demeter. Demeter could be the dove, maybe? It's hard to say. I kind of want to go back and reread this issue because you do see animals popping up throughout the book. So I'm interested to see if they are connected to gods and seated at certain moments. It looks like the gods are trying to protect her, though, which is really interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of animal imagery in here. That's really good. Right from the second page. That's good writing. I didn't even think about that until I start looking back through it. There's a lot of animal imagery here. They are really being smart about placing the art. That's good writing. That's good comic book writing that I really, really like to see. When it's hard to talk about this without just showing you every panel where an animal shows up. But that is really good writing. Or script work, I don't know, whatever. But yeah, that's really well done from just a comic book writing perspective. And yeah, there are no animals after the gods show up. That's brilliant. Greg Rucka is really good at writing scripts for comics. One of the things that just generally annoys me about comics sometimes is there is no reason this couldn't be a movie, or there is no reason that this couldn't be a novel. it just happens to be a comic book. And I like to see people do stuff in comics that can only work in comics. A lot of times that means narration over art that requires you to be able to sit and stare and be able to go back to it. Something that you can't really do in a movie unless you hit the rewind, but that distracts and breaks the pacing too much. Whereas when I'm flipping through a comic page, I can just see these two animals down here at the bottom, and then, flip the page and see more animals and go, wait, there's a lot. I can pick up on all the animal imagery and flip back and just look at other panels on the page when there are multiple pages with animals and get something out of it. So no, that's quite brilliant, because it just looks like superfluous art, and you're just seeing animals and they're not really doing too much to call your attention to them. It's just like, okay, there are just animals in this scene because they wanted to do that. No, brilliant. So that's how Wonder Woman gets her powers, is she has the lasso of truth and stuff from the Amazons, but she's getting the godlike strength and stuff from the gods. That's really smart. I like it. Really well done script. Good issue. Really enjoyed this. Next on my list, I have Batman number 7. This book's been ridiculously good. And I'm not even a fan of this Orlando guy, but you can definitely feel the King influence here, and it's interesting to see how all of this stuff with the Monster Men has been being set up in King's book, and the whole Hugo Strange as a major villain. So I'm really, I don't know, should I pick up the rest of the Monster Men? It's the problem when multiple books in the same, universe or whatever do these crossover arcs. Is I don't know if I'm just enjoying this because it's working with the stuff I'm already reading. And if I go to other stuff, if I'm just going to be like, no thanks. Or if I'm just kind of sort of getting a kick out of it and I want to read the whole story. I just don't know if I read the rest of the stuff in the story, if it'll have anything to do with King. It's hard to say with the story that King's been telling. Is he credited on the Nightwing book currently at all? I'll have to look. We'll see. Okay, guys. If you're going to put 5 Stages of Fearsome in the stores today, then, come on now. Give me a week. I buy my books, I go read them at home. I'm not going to go back to the comic book shop. Whatever. We'll see. I'll think about it. Is anyone else reading the Monster Men story arc, throughout? Do you think it's worth going for everything, or should I just continue only reading Batman? Let me know. I actually do respond to comments, so let me know. But no, it's good. It's written well. Sorry, I almost finished there before I'd said anything of significance about the book. No, it's good. It's written well. Art's pretty trippy at points. I'm not sure what the fuck is going on with Batwoman's hair, but I like it. Though Kate Kane will never be as good as she is in Bombshells. Hugo Strange is getting all buff while he's naked. Anyone want to see Hugo Strange's ass? You're welcome. You're welcome. This is what you come for. See what I did there? Because, yeah, I don't know. This is crossing over too much with Detective, which is not a series I cared for. I just read the first issue and was like, no thanks. Batman fighting a giant mutated baby, though. That's pretty cool. Some of the art is a little ridiculous, though. This panel looks really silly to me. Batman hopping in the jet. It just looks really, really silly. His arm's too straight. It's too perpendicular to the bat plane, and his body's too that would be really hard to do, guys. He's all like, nah. And his arm, like, supporting yourself all on that arm? That'd be crazy. Should I get up and try to... I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try to do that pose. Because that is ridiculous. It's been a while since I've gotten up and tried to do comic book poses. But this is why art in comics is ridiculous. Okay, so here's the bat plane. Now let me crank up the camera too. Alright, so here's the bat plane. Batman is got his arm perpendicular and his legs up in the air above his head. So the pose he is doing, here it goes. This might be a fail. The pose he is doing is, as he is jumping into the plane. That's too much. And like his whole body is like this. That's crazy. That's bad posing. I'm sorry, that's bad pose work. That just looks silly. I might be the only one that thinks of this shit, but that's a silly ass pose and it's very distracting. Batman fighting Giant Baby is kind of creepy and weird. There is one line I like to Duke. Where is it at? There's one line I like, but it seems out of place in the scene. And this is where I think you can tell that King helped plot it, because the credits go, written by Orlando, plotted by King. And the plot seems smarter than the writing at times, because you have Batman talking to Duke, and Duke says, I heard you're fighting monsters without me, Batman. And Batman says, check your syllabus, Duke. Monsters are next month. Alfred, what does it look like? So that's obviously a reference to October. You know, we're going to have monster stuff going on in October. And that'll be fun and everything. But that line is just really out of place with where Batman's head is right now. Particularly after losing Tim Drake. You have a dead Robin that makes for a more serious Batman. And that doesn't want to joke around about anything. And that's a joke from Batman, you know, in his really stoic kind of way. That's a joke from Batman in the middle of like him being very, very serious about everything else. So it's a fun line, but it's really doesn't work in context. So yeah, I'm a little I'm iffy on this book. I like the plot. There's some moments in the art, obviously, that I find kind of silly. And then there's, like, just some awkward writing here and there. So yeah, that's where I'm at with this. By far the worst issue of Batman yet, but that's only because everything else has been fucking amazing. And this is, don't get me wrong, this is far from bad. Very, very far from bad. Okay, let's go on to Weird Detective number 4. This is a really cool cover that says 911 Call of Cthulhu. It's not what the story's about, and it loses points for that, because I want to read a story called 911 Call of Cthulhu, but that's not what happens in this. There's a neat little quote from Nerdist. It's got angry cats, Cthulhu, murder, and more. A comic book you can't help but adore. It rhymes. Again, it's a well-told detective story. There's a lot of actual detective work. It feels like a crime noir mixed with H.P. Lovecraft. If, like, the Maltese Falcon and H.P. Lovecraft had a baby, bam. That's your damn quote for the cover of your book. So that's really what's going on. We have crime noir, we have this like gritty edge to everything. But we also have, you know, the weirdness of H.P. Lovecraft worked in, and that's really fun. And they don't shy away from just how bizarre and creepy and unnerving the Lovecraftian elements can be here. There's this scene where Green is in this old woman's house who's like got dementia, and she's just talking about this weird idea of a water carnival, and it's just unnerving. And then there's really fucking weird ass imagery. That would be a child sucking everything out of a man. Everything. Only thing he's leaving is the skin. And that's creepy. They are not shying away from the disturbing imagery here. Here's a bit for all you Deadpool fans. There's a panel for you. For all the fans of the Deadpool movie. Enjoy that in your nightmares. Yeah, I'm enjoying the hell out of this. The cat's hilarious. It's got a really odd tone, really cool. It's working for me, guys. I'm enjoying this book. I don't think I've enjoyed any issue quite as much as the first, but that's not to say anything bad about it. It's just, you know, long-form storytelling, which I have a harder time enjoying. I'll admit, I much prefer, you know, one-and-dones over long-form storytelling, but that's okay. This is still good. It's just doing something that's not quite to my liking. But yeah, I highly recommend checking this book out if you're a H.P. Lovecraft, you know, Cthulhu mythos aficionado. I think it's worth your time because it's a lot of fun. Final single issue of the week is Jeff Lemire's Black Hammer number 3. I gotta remind myself sometimes. So this is where we get the origin of Barbalian, who in a lot of ways is John Jones, the Martian Manhunter, which is, like, if we didn't know it from his shape-changing ability and the fact that he came from fucking Mars beforehand, we definitely have more of that now. They even have, like, a flashback scene with him and his people on Mars. Oh, I missed it. Yeah, we even have a flashback scene, and one of his people goes, "Look at this weak fool, Jan Jans," just like his father before him. "Yes, Counselor Locks. Mark Marks." It's very, very apparent what Jeff Lemire is doing here. It's a very Watchmen-like thing where you take characters that already exist and then make something that's very, very similar and then show it in the most fucked up way possible. And that's not quite what's going on here, but there's something similar. We get some more stuff with Abe. Wait, did I get that right? Is that his name? Did I fuck up? Yeah, Abe. Okay, we get some more stuff with him and this waitress that he's seen, but I don't really care about that. I am more interested in the Barbalian story, and it is pretty much John Jones's origin, so that's cool. But they throw in a gay element here. They throw in homosexuality, and that's working really well. It's, you know, told in a believable way, and you've got Gale, who had an amazing issue last time. Got Gale dealing with feelings for him, and stuff's being set up. I'm enjoying this. This is cool. I'm excited to see where this goes. It's just a really interesting, intriguing story that's taking very similar ideas to Watchmen and one of the episodes of Justice League and kind of mixing it all about. So I'm excited to see what continues to happen in here. I'm sorry I don't have too much to say just about this issue itself. I just liked Barbarian's origin because it was kind of this... It was John Jones's origin, just tweaked slightly, and it's an interesting direction to take it in. So yeah, I'm excited to keep reading this. I'm going to take a quick break. Be back with you in a few. Alright, here we go. We're back, and we have on Trade Talk this week, Green Lantern Corps, to be a lantern. And you have to say Corps, you can't say corpse, because that's another arc. Anyway, Green Lantern Corps. I like this. I like this a lot. This is written by Dave Gibbons and Patrick Gleason. Wait. No, yeah. Dave Gibbons is the writer. Okay. This is fun. This is just the kind of stuff with Green Lantern that I really like, where it's short, quick stories that are intriguing, that have an impact. So yeah, adjust the camera. No, camera's too tall. Fuck it, whatever. It's short, quick stories that have an impact, that stay with you. My ring's too big for my finger. That stay with you. I've not been chosen. And they're just fun to read. This is just the kind of stuff that I like in comics. Dave Gibbons really knows what he's doing with these characters. He's got a really good voice for all of them. And stuff they're doing with Kamatui. Hey, no. That's not her name, is it? No, that's not it. Shit, I feel stupid. What's their name? Natu, right, okay. The stuff they're doing with Natu is interesting. I'm curious to see how it continues on. I've seen how it continues on. I'm glad to be seeing it again because it's just an interesting character arc. I like this. It's just fun. The way Mogo's written is cool. Guy Gardner is not a character I care for very much, but I can tell Dave Gibbons enjoys writing him, has a lot of fun writing Guy Gardner, and that's fine. My biggest complaint with Dave Gibbons' run on, or with really all of Green Lantern Corps in old 52 at least, and a lot of new 52, is that just, god damn it, John Stewart didn't get enough to do. He is like such a non-entity in the revival of Green Lantern, even though he's one of the most popular Green Lanterns. This book, Green Lantern Corps, basically becomes, aside from the Alien Lanterns, the Guy Gardner, Kyle Rayner book. And while I do really like the Kyle Rayner stuff, and Guy's story is told well, even though I don't care for him, I really just don't like Guy Gardner that much. Like everyone else in the world, but he's one of those characters that people love for some reason. Some people love. Like, and they get to do whatever the fuck they want, apparently. So, Guy Gardner stuff, it's not written poorly. I don't want to give that impression off. I just don't care for it as much as I do literally every other character besides Guy Gardner. The story arc, the two characters who I really, really like in this book are Vath and Izamat. Those two are really fascinating, and the way in which they interact with each other and have to build this relationship, because they're from opposing sides in a goddamn war. And so they have to learn how to work together and be partners. Not just how to work together, to be able to protect each other's lives, to be partners. And they're having, difficulty doing it, but their hearts are in the right place, and so I'm really enjoying that about it. And then there's the Iolande and Ragnar story in this volume that was adapted for Green Lantern the Animated Series, which I'm rewatching, by the way, which I fucking love. I was having an interesting conversation on Twitter last night with the executive producer of that series. Really neat. Just talking about Saint Walker. Bullfunga comes back, and Dave Gibbons is just having fun with the character that he was involved in creating, and that's fine. It's just silliness with Guy Gardner that I don't really care about. Again, Vath and Izamat are the ones that I really like for this story. the Iolande story is cool too. It's a nice little subversion of expectations, and it's written well. What else happens in this that's worth talking about? The Mogo stuff, I really like how Mogo is used as kind of like a stand-in for Dagobah and Yoda. And that's just interesting how the Lanterns start going to Mogo for essentially to unload their trauma that they deal with out in the field. I really like that. That's clever. Turn Mogo into more than just a plot device. He's the shrink of the Corps in this era. And then you have Guy Gardner and what's his name? Thos is what Guy Gardner calls him, and that's fine. You have Guy Gardner and Thos dealing with the sentient city ranks, and that's just to set up more stuff for this whole Blackest Night thing. I love this scene where the surgeons refuse to work with I keep wanting to call her Kamatui. That's basically what she is. She's just a rehash Kamatui. Want to work with Natu. For those that don't know, Natu was a surgeon on Kroagar, which is the planet that Sinestro ruled over. She was a surgeon on Krogar, and Krogura? Fucking knows. When the Ring chose her, she didn't want to be a Lantern, but now she's accepted the responsibility, so she's trying to go back to her home planet and still continue her life there, but they hate Green Lanterns on that planet, so they don't want anything to do with her, and so there are doctors that are refusing to work with her in this surgery on this patient, and she's like, he needs surgery now, and they're all like, no, we're not going to do it with you. So she goes, no, you can all step out, I'll handle this alone, and she's her own medical staff with the Ring. I think that's just neat, cool stuff. Kilowog's having fun, stuff like that's going on. Stuff with the ranks, just okay. Again, the story arc I really love the most in this is Vath and Izamat. They're just really interesting characters. Yeah, that's about all I got. It's just a fun book. I'm not going to have a ton to say on the Green Lantern Corps book as I work my way through the Green Lantern series again. Just because a lot of it's not dense, it's not super intelligent writing where there's a lot to unpack like in the Sandman series I did. It's just quick, fun stories a lot of the time that are interesting, and that's just the kind of stuff I love in comics. So my thing is going to be, oh, that's a cool scene, oh, that was fun, that's a neat moment, and I hope that everyone's okay with that. If you have specific questions about volumes that you know I'll be getting to, be sure to leave them and I'll try to remember to answer them along the way. Anyway, everyone, that'll do it for this week's episode of Comic Reviews. I hope you enjoyed. Sorry I'm a day late. Wedding stuff. Hopefully that'll happen less and less as time goes on. My goal every week is to get the episodes uploaded on Thursday. Just future notice, if I'm not able to get a comic review uploaded or recorded on Wednesday, I should be able to have a fan film review go up that day in its place, and then I'll do comic reviews on Thursday, just like right now. You're watching what just happened with that. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that'll about do it. Thanks for watching, everyone.